The stars shone brightly over the planet Zerion, a world ruled by the mighty alien Queen Althera. She was wise, strong, and fair, loved by her people for her courage and vision, yet tonight, a shadow of fear moved across her palace. The usual calm of the crystal towers was gone, replaced by urgent whispers among her guards. High above, dark shapes moved in silence, enemy ships, unlike anything Zerion had seen before. Their metal hulls glinted under the starlight, each ship bristling with deadly weapons. The Queen's advisors watched in disbelief as the fleet grew larger by the minute, each ship moving with precision, like a predator hunting its prey. Queen Althera stood on the balcony of her palace, her long robes flowing behind her. She felt a strange unease in her chest. This was no ordinary attack. Her instincts told her that the life of her planet, and possibly the entire galaxy, hung in balance. "Prepare the defenses," she ordered calmly, her voice steady, but even she could feel the tension building around her. Below, citizens ran through the streets, some hiding in alleys, others attempting to reach the safety of the palace walls. The air was filled with the sound of sirens and distant explosions. Panic began to ripple through the city. The ground trembled as the first of the enemy's bombs struck. Flames erupted, scattering debris in every direction. Among the chaos, a human warrior named Kale stepped quietly into the city. He was unlike any being Althera had seen, tall and strong, with eyes that burned with courage and determination. He moved carefully, observing the enemy, calculating his moves. His presence alone seemed to change the energy around him. He did not run, he did not panic, he acted. Kale had come from a distant star system, far from Zerion. Following rumors of the coming threat, humans were considered weak by most alien species, yet Kale carried a quiet confidence, a bravery that surpassed the most seasoned warriors of the galaxy. He was ready to face the enemy, even if it meant risking everything. Back at the palace, Althera's guards readied their weapons. Energy shields hummed as they activated, defensive turrets aimed at the sky. The Queen herself prepared a personal defense, a glowing staff that pulsed with energy. But even with all their preparation, the enemy ships continued to advance, moving faster than anyone expected. Kale ducked behind a pile of rubble as a beam of energy tore through the street near him. Sparks flew, and a small building collapsed. He rolled forward, using the debris for cover, then fired a precision shot at a hovering drone, disabling it instantly. His actions drew the attention of nearby civilians, who stared in awe, unsure if this human could really make a difference. In the sky above, the enemy fleet formed a perfect formation, a dark triangle moving closer to the planet's core city. Althera's council debated endlessly, their voices rising and falling with fear and uncertainty. The Queen listened quietly, knowing that arguing would not save anyone. She needed action, and she needed it now. Kale moved swiftly through the chaos, helping those trapped under fallen structures, guiding frightened citizens to safety, yet always keeping an eye on the enemy. His strategy was simple but effective: strike where the enemy was weak, create confusion, and protect as many lives as possible. A massive explosion rocked the central plaza, sending a shockwave that shattered windows and threw guards off their feet. Althera's eyes narrowed as she saw the destruction. She knew the enemy wanted more than the city. They wanted her, the ruler of Zerion, gone. Kale noticed the blast too, his heart pounding but his mind sharp. He sprinted towards the danger, dodging falling debris and energy blasts. He could see enemy soldiers deploying, their weapons ready, and civilians trapped in the crossfire. Without hesitation, he charged forward, a beacon of courage in the chaos. Althera, watching from her balcony, felt a spark of hope. She had not yet met this human, but she sensed his resolve. In a moment where all seemed lost, one figure could make a difference, and perhaps, just perhaps, this warrior was that figure. The city burned around them, the enemy closed in, and the night was filled with the screams of panic and the hum of energy weapons. Yet in the heart of the chaos, Kale moved like a force of nature, calculated and fearless, every action precise, every step bringing him closer to the palace, closer to the Queen, closer to the turning point of the battle. And as the first part of the night unfolded, the citizens of Zerion could only watch in awe, as a lone human warrior began to stand against an unstoppable enemy. The threat to the alien Queen was greater than ever, yet the courage of one being had already begun to change the tide, leaving a spark of hope in the darkness. The sky over Zerion burned with fire and light, enemy ships streaking across the horizon, casting shadows over the once peaceful city. Kale moved silently through the chaos, his eyes scanning for the smallest opening, every movement calculated, every decision critical. He came across a group of citizens trapped beneath rubble, their faces pale with fear. Kale did not hesitate, he lifted heavy debris with surprising strength, creating a path for them to escape. The civilians stared at him in awe, murmuring among themselves, "Who is this human?" they whispered, their hope flickering in the darkness. Meanwhile, the alien Queen Althra observed from the palace, her mind racing. She had seen warriors before, but humans were rarely among them, yet something about Kale drew her attention, a force of courage she could sense even from a distance. She ordered a group of palace scouts to track him, curiosity mixing with concern. Kale sprinted down the main avenue, dodging energy blasts that tore through the street. He fired back with precision, disabling drones and enemy soldiers alike. Each strike was calculated, never wasteful. He moved like a storm, swift and unstoppable, yet controlled. In one plaza, a massive enemy mech landed, its metal feet cracking the ground. Civilians screamed, scattering in every direction. Kale stood his ground, assessing the machine. He saw the weak points in its armor, and with a daring leap, he struck at its joints with explosive charges. The mech faltered, sparks flying as it crashed, temporarily silenced. Althra's advisors were shocked. Who is this human? How can one being fight so many? They muttered in disbelief, but the queen merely nodded, recognizing the bravery. Yet she knew this was only the beginning, the true test was still ahead. Kale continued through the streets, his presence turning the tide for scattered groups of defenders. His strategy simple but effective: protect the people, confuse the enemy, strike where it hurt the most. His actions inspired those around him. Even alien soldiers began to follow his lead, their morale lifting at his courage. Suddenly, a massive energy blast tore across the street, sending Kale rolling into cover, his body hitting the ground hard, dust in his eyes. He looked up and saw the source, a towering enemy commander, clad in dark armor, energy weapons crackling with deadly power. Kale's jaw tightened. This was no ordinary foe. The commander spoke in a cold, mechanical voice. "Human, you cannot survive this night." His words carried through the air, a mixture of threat and amusement. Kale ignored the taunt, focusing on the civilians fleeing past him. He knew the fight was not for glory, it was for life itself. With careful precision, Kale activated a series of small explosives around the commander's feet, creating confusion and blinding light. He dashed forward, striking at weak points in the armor. The enemy faltered, stumbling back, giving Kale just enough time to retreat with the civilians, safe for now. Althra, observing from the palace balcony, felt her pulse quicken. She had seen heroes rise before, but Kale's bravery was different. He risked life and safety not for power or recognition, but for the people, a rare trait even among the strongest of her own kind. She realized the true value of this human warrior. As Kale reached the outskirts of the palace, he paused, looking up at the towering walls, the enemy forces still pressing forward, his chest heaving with exertion, yet determination burned in his eyes. He knew the queen's safety depended on him, and he would not fail. A sudden shadow fell over him, enemy drones descending from the sky, their weapons glowing. Kale rolled into cover again, narrowly avoiding a deadly blast. He glanced around, spotting a fallen scaffolding, and with quick thinking, used it to spring forward, taking out several drones in one swift move. The city streets were chaos incarnate, yet Kale moved like a storm through the destruction. Civilians inspired, defenders emboldened, enemies confused, the tide of battle subtly shifting with every calculated strike he made. He was becoming a symbol, a spark of hope in a night filled with terror. As the first wave of enemy forces began to falter under his relentless assault, Kale looked toward the palace again, a towering figure in the distance, the queen watching, her expression unreadable but her eyes reflecting curiosity and hope. He knew the next step would be the hardest, reaching her through the enemy lines. And so, the human warrior pressed on, fearless, unstoppable, a living force against the darkness, the first hints of legend forming around him in whispers among citizens and soldiers alike. The threat to the alien queen was far from over, but Kale had stepped into the storm, and he would not turn back. The palace of Zerion towered above the city, its crystal spires glinting in the firelight, yet inside, chaos had taken hold. Enemy soldiers swarmed the halls, energy beams cutting through doors and walls, alarms screamed, and the guards fell one by one. Queen Althra moved swiftly through her inner chambers, her staff glowing with protective energy. She had faced threats before, but never like this. The enemy was relentless, cunning, and merciless. She could feel the weight of the entire planet pressing on her shoulders. Meanwhile, Kale navigated the crumbling streets, dodging falling debris and enemy fire, every step bringing him closer to the palace gates. He could hear the screams of soldiers and civilians alike, yet his mind stayed sharp, calculating the safest path, the fastest route to the queen. The outer walls of the palace were heavily guarded, enemy drones hovering above, energy turrets rotating to track intruders. Kale paused in the shadows, analyzing. He could see the weak points in their patrol, and with careful timing, he slipped past, moving like a shadow, unseen but deadly. Inside the palace, Althra's advisors tried to form a defense, but panic was spreading. The queen's presence alone was not enough to inspire them. She needed a miracle, and she did not know if it would come in time. Kale reached the grand entrance hall, a vast space filled with shattered statues and glowing energy conduits. Enemy forces had taken control. Their leader, a massive armored figure, stood at the center, directing troops, his voice cold and commanding. "Stop the human, he cannot reach the queen." Kale's eyes narrowed. He crouched behind a fallen pillar, watching, waiting for the perfect moment. Then, with a burst of speed, he darted forward, disabling a group of soldiers with quick precision strikes. His movement was fluid, almost impossible to track. The queen, trapped in her inner chamber, sensed someone moving through the palace. She looked at the security feeds, and her eyes widened. A human, unarmed by alien standards, was cutting through the enemy with ease, his courage shining like a beacon. Kale moved closer to the chamber, yet the enemy commander noticed him, raising his massive weapon, firing a concentrated blast. Kale rolled to the side, sparks flying where the energy hit the floor. He countered with a well-aimed shot, taking down the nearest drone. Time was slipping away. Althra's guards had been reduced to a handful, cornered and exhausted, yet Kale's arrival gave them a spark of hope. They began to fight back with renewed vigor, inspired by the human's bravery and skill. Kale paused in the corridor, noticing a trap set to block the queen's chamber, an energy field pulsing dangerously. One wrong move could end everything. He analyzed quickly, then leapt with perfect timing, disabling the trap with a precise strike, clearing the way. The queen watched from her chamber, her heart pounding. She had faced enemies before, but never one like this, never one so fearless, so determined. She could feel the human's energy, his resolve, and a spark of trust began to form in her mind. Kale entered the inner chamber finally, enemy soldiers converging from all sides, yet he held his ground, every movement calculated, every strike efficient. He fought not for glory, but for life, for the people, and for the queen herself. The enemy commander roared in frustration, advancing toward Kale, but the human was ready. He used the environment to his advantage, throwing debris, redirecting energy blasts, creating confusion, striking where the enemy least expected. Althra, seeing the human's actions, felt a strange sense of hope. Her pulse steadied. She realized that perhaps, just perhaps, this one being could change the course of the battle, save not only her life but the lives of everyone on Zarion. As Kale fought his way closer, the energy of the palace seemed to shift, defenders inspired, civilians hiding in safe corners whispering prayers, enemies faltering, the tide subtly turning, one human against a seemingly unstoppable force, yet unstoppable in spirit. And in that moment, Kale and the queen's paths were destined to cross. The ultimate test of courage and trust was about to begin. The fate of the alien queen, and the entire planet, hung in the balance, leaving the night charged with tension and suspense. The inner chamber of the palace shook as enemy forces poured in, energy beams slicing through walls, alarms blaring, the air thick with smoke and fear. Queen Althra stood at the center, her staff glowing fiercely, a last line of hope for her people. Kale burst into the chamber, his movements swift and precise, his eyes locked on the queen, yet the enemy commander blocked his path, towering and menacing, energy weapons crackling across his armor. "Human, you cannot save her," the commander growled, his voice like thunder. Kale did not speak. He acted, moving like a force of nature, dodging blasts, striking with unmatched precision, every move calculated, each blow disabling another enemy. Civilians huddled in hidden corners, their eyes wide with fear and awe, watching this human defy impossible odds. Althra raised her staff, directing energy at enemy soldiers who dared approach. her powers formidable, but even she knew that without Kale, the enemy would overwhelm them. She needed him to survive, to hold the line. The commander lunged, massive energy sword swinging. Kale rolled to the side, slashing at the enemy's weak points. Sparks flew, metal groaned, yet the commander kept advancing, relentless, deadly. The room seemed too small for such fury. Kale dodged, countered, and struck again, his mind sharp despite exhaustion. He could feel every heartbeat, every breath, the weight of the planet's fate pressing on him, yet he moved forward, driven by courage and determination, the essence of humanity's relentless spirit. The Queen watched, her breath quickening, seeing the human fight with unmatched bravery, each strike saving more lives, yet the commander pressed harder, pinning Kale against a wall, energy sparks flying as metal clashed. Kale gritted his teeth, refusing to yield. He noticed a small conduit above the commander, pulsing with energy. With a daring leap, he struck it, causing a surge that knocked the enemy off balance, sparks and fire erupting around him. The commander staggered, injured but not defeated. Althera seized the moment, directing a focused blast of energy, striking the commander's armor, weakening him further. Kale took advantage, delivering a final, precise strike, the enemy commander crashing to the floor, defeated, sparks flying from his shattered armor. The remaining soldiers froze, shocked by the human skill and the Queen's power combined. Some fled, some surrendered, the battle slowly turning in favor of Zerion, hope flickering brighter in the hearts of defenders. Kale turned to see the Queen, her eyes meeting his, a silent understanding passing between them. He had risked everything, yet his courage had saved not just her, but the city, the people, the very future of the planet. A final blast shook the chamber as the last of the enemy drones fell. The air cleared, smoke rising, the silence heavy but victorious. Althera stepped forward, her staff dimming, yet her gaze was fixed on Kale, admiration and gratitude shining in her eyes. "You came when we needed you most," she said softly, her voice carrying through the chamber. "You risked everything for us." Kale, exhausted but unwavering, nodded. "I did what I had to do," he replied, simple words, but his actions spoke louder than any speech. The people around them whispered in awe, the legend of the human warrior growing even in its first night. Outside, the city began to recover, fires slowly extinguished, citizens emerging from hiding, their eyes filled with hope and wonder. They spoke of bravery, of a warrior who had faced impossible odds and won, the story of Kale spreading faster than the enemy could have imagined. Althera watched the sunrise over the city, the glow reflecting off the crystal towers. She knew the night had changed everything. One human had proved that courage, determination, and heart could defy even the greatest of threats, the HFY spirit alive in one solitary warrior. Yet even in victory, Kale and the Queen knew the galaxy was not safe. More dangers would come, more battles would need to be fought, but for now, the alien Queen was alive, her people safe, and a legend had been born, leaving a spark of hope for every being watching the stars. The first rays of sunlight touched the city of Zerion, glinting off the shattered towers and the remnants of enemy ships. The battle was over, yet the air still hummed with the echoes of chaos. Queen Althera stepped forward, her staff in hand, surveying the aftermath with cautious relief. Kale stood beside her, dust and scorch marks covering his armor, his chest heaving from exhaustion, yet his eyes were steady, filled with quiet determination. He had risked everything, faced impossible odds, and survived, a testament to human courage and resilience. The citizens emerged from hiding, faces brightening as they saw their queen alive, their warriors safe, and the enemy defeated. Whispers of gratitude and awe spread through the streets, the human warrior who had saved them becoming a symbol of hope and strength. Althera turned to Kale, her expression a mixture of admiration and gratitude. "You came when no one else could," she said, her voice steady, but filled with emotion. "You risked everything for us, and yet, you never faltered." Kale shook his head, a small smile forming. "I did not fight for glory or praise," he said, his voice calm but strong. "I fought for life, for the people, for what was right." The Queen studied him closely, realizing that humans, often underestimated, carried a fire within that even the greatest aliens could not ignore. Together, they walked through the city, witnessing the courage of the citizens who had begun to rebuild, the fires being put out, the injured being helped, a quiet sense of unity and hope settling over Zerion. The battle had been terrifying, but it had also revealed strength and bravery that no one had expected. Althera addressed her people, her voice amplified through the palace. "Tonight, we faced death, yet we survived," she said, her eyes meeting Kale's briefly, "and it was one human warrior who showed us that courage and heart can change destiny." The crowd erupted in cheers, their faith in life renewed. Kale remained humble, watching from the shadows as the people celebrated, yet he felt a deep connection with the Queen and the planet. He realized that even in the vast galaxy, one person could make a difference, one person could stand against darkness, and one person could inspire millions. As the day progressed, Althera and Kale spoke privately, discussing the future, strategies to rebuild, and the potential threats still lurking beyond the stars. The Queen recognized not only Kale's strength but his wisdom, a rare combination that could shape the fate of worlds. Later, Kale looked up at the sky, the stars beginning to appear again, twinkling as if applauding the bravery that had been shown below. He thought of the battles yet to come, the challenges waiting in distant galaxies, yet he felt ready, confident in his skills and his courage, knowing that humanity's spirit was unstoppable. Althera approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Zarion owes you its life," she said softly, "but more than that, you have reminded us all that hope is stronger than fear, that courage is stronger than death." Kale nodded, understanding that this bond between human and alien would shape the future in ways none could foresee. The citizens of Zarion cheered from the palace steps, children pointing to the human warrior and the Queen, elders smiling with relief, and soldiers saluting with newfound respect. A legend had been born tonight, a story that would be told across galaxies, a story of bravery, sacrifice, and the unstoppable force of one human warrior. And as Kale stood beside the Queen, watching the sun rise over the recovering city, he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy held many threats, many challenges, yet with courage, strategy, and determination, even the smallest among the stars could shape history, and humanity's story was far from over. The wind carried whispers of the night's battle across Zarion, a tale of fear, hope, and triumph. Yet one thing was clear: the alien Queen had survived, the city was saved, and one human warrior had risked everything, leaving a spark of legend that would burn for generations to come.